integrating policy and community mobilization.
When we started RAY, there were no guidelines, which at times looks unfortunate but was extremely fortunate because we had a lot of flexibility. First, we sort of looked at our small experiences. So what we found, there were 6 or 7 gaps we had to address. The first was what I call the decentralization gap. You know, we have a council, we have a corporator, but at neighborhood level, which is the most important, there is no democratic level. Second is, slum dwellers, the citizens should be active partners. So how to have active participation, and connected to that, how to have active participation right since the start of the project till the end. The third was targeting, how to select beneficiaries. Should we go by the standard, this techno-rational survey which we do and then see their income? How to do it? This is what we try to address again. The fourth was operation and maintenance. The next was the slow progress. You know, once you have community involvement, literature throughout the world has said that the focus is on the process, not on the outputs. And this is where you get into political issues. Corporators want outputs, they want results. Number of buildings built, number of people given water. Process is important for them, but more important is the output. The next was to take data beyond rituals. First we get the data and then we try to prepare the strategy. And often, as he says, after you prepare the strategy and you do the work, you try to correlate the strategy with the usage of the data. You find nil. There are absolutely 2 standalone processes. Next is, of course, one size shouldn't fit all. There should be scheme flexibility. Then the importantly, monitoring issues, increase in the rates of houses, then approvals, issues in development approvals. And coming to the household surveys should be useful and not dated. Often you do a household survey and it shouldn't be how to get over the issue of datedness. So we adopted the following strategy. And on this I wrote an article in Economic Times I circulated to you, which we called it bottom-up decentralization. It is the, you know, what we have done actually. So we followed what is called a mixed scanning approach. A 2 approach. One is, like you have a small camera, cell camera, you take a photograph, and the second is satellite camera. So we had the mixed scanning approach, we mixed that and this, the macro and the micro. So what was the large camera approach? There was a technical rational survey, but we involved community. We did not do the survey through anybody. The form was given to us as a given. We didn't question the form because government gave it to us. Upar gave it to us, Dr. Murthy gave it to us. We didn't go into the reliability and validity of the questionnaire. Because that is one more reason why strategy and they don't correlate. Because you never check on the reliability and validity of the questionnaire. Is the questionnaire measuring what you want? Anyway, that was given, so we did it. How we did, each slum we found there were a lot of young boys. We trained them and we made them do the community survey. And you know the cost? 25 lakhs. We finished a survey of 200,000 people in slums. 50 rent. Same guys came in and did that. So guys who went in, surveyed, did the data. After we did that, what we did, GIS. When I went to GIS, I asked UPA, what is the analytics underlying the GIS? They couldn't tell me. Till today, nobody has told me what is the analytics. And finally, Dr. Mohanty, we decided it's primarily for the purpose of representation. You know, we had these census. In the census, we had enumerated block maps showing each house. We took those, combined with Google, and made a GIS maps. In the attribute table, we put one field as ration card number. And we took our ration cards and combined the two, and we had a full attribute table. And then combined that with the household survey. And the ration card has iris, so we got biometric free. So we combined these 3 fields and got such a big attribute table underlying each household. So that was the GIS part we did. After that, what did we do with the survey? As she was saying, in the survey we made a matrix, a standard matrix which is used, known as a poverty versus infrastructure deficit matrix. Based on this matrix, we prioritized the 1500 slums, which should be done first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. The corporator said, no, what is this happening? We don't understand, you don't understand the ground situation, you guys some technical thing you've done. So we said, okay, we put the standing committee, you can switch the slums. fifth year you can bring to fourth year, no problem. But this is our technical analysis which is for you. You switch this now, doesn't make a difference. Second year will get in fourth year if you feel that's, but they have to face, you know, those people who were in first year. And I tell you, there will no switching. We were putting it there will no switching at all. That was the political part we brought. Then we plan to use the baseline survey for evaluation. Actually, the most important role of a baseline survey is of course strategizing, but also doing impact evaluation. Does the economics work out? Has it led to the changes you wanted? Or are we continuing to do the same process again and again? Then we come the second part, which is the micro survey. We are the only people who have made operational a law on ward area sabhas and ward committees. And this law is extremely unique, again, unintended. 90% of the wards committee members and area sabha members belong to civil society organizations. They should be the president or secretary of an NGO or a slum federation or registered neighborhood committees or self-help groups having some criteria or civil society organizations. Only 10% are prominent citizen in which the corporators and politicians play around. And this also reflects the new political economy of India, which is moving away from rich, poor to the interplay between interest and special interest groups. Area sabha and ward committees we implemented, all of them are in position. What we used there was we decentralized, devolved and deconcentrated funds, functionaries and functions. The principle we followed was a classical principle called the principle of subsidiarity. Any functionary of that we asked, can the ward committee do it better than a higher level? If the answer is yes, we give it to the ward committee. And I can tell you, I was telling you, my pants are on fire. Corporate is after my life because today the greatest check on corporator is the ward committee. You see, we are unnecessarily trying to control them. If you put checks and balances at that level, it takes away. And they are after my life. It's absolutely terrible, my life. Twice they have literally passed resolution for my transfer, but it was not agreed. CM didn't agree. So it's like this, you know, we are living in that sort of a system. In fact, one MIM corporator, floor leader was telling me, once he came, I said, "Kaisa hai ye ward committee members?" वो कहता क्या है सर, 15 दमाद है मेरे साथ. मेरे 15 दमाद है सर, रोज सवेरे शाम तक मुझसे सवाल पूछते रहते हैं. Now other side of planning for RAY, area sabha, which means over 5,000 is an area sabha members, and there's a ward committee consisting of 10 members. Area sabha members is also ex officio member ward committee. The area sabhas are geography based. The ward committee is not geography based. So it is something like the US representatives and Senate. You know? Again, it's something of that sort of structure. Now, all proposals are generated at the area sabha and then discussed and prioritized at the ward committee. There's a ward secretary here who's an engineer, deputy executive engineer, executive engineer. There's an assistant secretary who's a UCD staff in area sabha. What we did, priorities, needs, issues. We went to the area sabha just blank with 3-4 sheets of papers, and they would say, this is the scheme, RAY, even otherwise. And what are your priorities, needs and issues? And then what is the solution? The engineer would say, this is the rough cost. And we listed out all of them. After we listed all of them, we gave it a shape so it was more easily understandable. And went to the ward committee and asked the ward committee, prioritize this. So they prioritized. And that became the people's plan. One or two analytical tools we used with the household survey was, we took the household survey and we found great information. I mean, there was no way one program was going to fit all of them. We found half the slum was tenants, another half was owners. You know, we found all sorts of mixing in the slums. So we took title of the slum as an attribute. We took the type of housing. You know, we found the average indebted level was 35,000. And if suppose they build a house which is not maybe complete, they have already put say 30,000 taking loan, you're going to give them another 10% beneficiary contribution loan by shifting them. हैदराबाद के स्लम्स में जो कर्ज है वो करीबन 35,000 है एवरेज हाउस होल्ड पे, हर घर पे 35,000 कर्ज है. जब 35,000 कर्ज है और उसका घर सपोज सेमी पक्का, घर में उन्हें क्लासिफाई करा पक्का, सेमी पक्का और कच्चा. तो अगर सेमी कच्चा घर है उसको हटाएंगे और उसको 10% मतलब 30-40 हज़ार रुपये और लग जाएगा उस पर,
तो वो तो उसको आपने लाइफ लॉन्ग पोर ही कर दिया, और उसके बाद एक शादी हो गई या किसी डेथ हो गई तो फैमिली गई फिर. But to help them, and these three proposals were retrofitting. You have a house, you want to retrofit? Okay, go ahead. Retrofit the infrastructure, retrofit the house. Relocate. अच्छा relocate करना है अगर वहाँ से, केनाल वन पे है, हमारे बहुत नालाज हैं, नाले पे है, या लेक के बगल में अलाउड बिल्कुल नहीं है, हाई कोर्ट के ऑर्डर लेक से, तो रिलोकेट करना है तो रिलोकेट कर सकते. पहला रेट्रोफिटिंग. रेट्रोफिटिंग मतलब नियरली बना हुआ एक कमरा ऐड करना है, छत चेंज करनी है, वो दूसरा. और तीसरा, सबके पास गवर्नमेंट लैंड है, कुछ लोगों को टाइटल मिला हुआ है, सब मिलकर डिसाइड करते हैं नया लेआउट बनाएंगे, बढ़िया लेआउट बनाएंगे और उसमें मल्टी स्टोरी बना देंगे उसमें. तो रिन्यूअल प्रपोजल, ये 3 हेड के हमने उनके सामने रखे और उनसे पूछा आप सेलेक्ट करिए इसमें क्या करना है, इसके अलावा भी कोई ऑप्शन है बताइए. उसमें टेनेंसी हाउसिंग मांगी लोगों ने, तो दैट ऑल्सो वी अग्री. वी आर नॉट डूइंग एनी रेंटल हाउसिंग फॉर आवर ओन, वी डोंट बिल्ड एनीथिंग. तो टेनेंसी हाउसिंग इज देयर, वी गोइंग टू हेल्प देम. ये पीपल्स प्लान था, कंबाइन करा वो सर्वे से, और ये हमने बना के उसका पूरा वो टोटल से सर्वे हो तो कंसल्टेंट्स को दे दिया हमने, वो भी कंप्लीट हो. और हर स्लम में इनोवेटिवनेस क्या है, सस्टेनेबिलिटी क्या है, वो सब लिखा. Each slum is a DPR individually prepared, contextual for that slum, representing the needs, the issues, and the priorities as determined by the slum, but also taking the larger, what has been the knowledge which says what should be done, and telling them and trying to reconcile with their perceptions. In the rules for the ward committees and area sabhas, there are certain functions which have been given to them. All these we have given to them through detailed executive instructions. We have put what we call internal auto mechanisms. For example, if we have sweeping units, contractor units, consisting of 18 sweepers, before they get the salary, last week of the month is put to the ward committee. Ward committee out of 10, they write satisfied, dissatisfied. They get the salary only if not more than 20%, not more than 20% say dissatisfied. In the rules it is there, a resolution cannot be passed if it is opposed by 20%. So the minority, the voiceless also get voice in the all beneficiary selection has been given to the area sabha. What do? We have a matrix in which the name of the beneficiary is. We call out the name. People who are opposing, people who are supporting, people who have no views. And we write numbers for each beneficiary. If there are large number of no views, we try to check up with the households, we don't go to it. I personally feel we should trust them. If the committee wants to give it to a bogus person, let them give it. It's their money only going on. Why should we put our UCD staff or tehsildars to go and do all this technique? This is what we do. Our selection of beneficiary and value. So by making operational the rules through executive instructions and using this small trick, any service provision every month has to go through water. It's amazing. Electricity, lights, burning, not burning, the AEs and the private practice people has to go through the water companies and the area service. I agree, some places they may ask for money, but at least widely known. And I can assure you 10 people, all of them cannot combine to get you money. Execution, this way we have involved them. Targeting we have involved them. Then operation and maintenance. The ward committees have 20% of maintenance budget allotted to them by the corporation. 20% of full budget goes to them to decide and do whatever. That takes care of operation and maintenance. Scheme rigidity has been taken care of. And community has been involved since inception. And they are also involved in monitoring. Because every month, everything has to go. How we build this model in which the area sabhas and the ward committees are the fulcrum. Thank you.
Can you just break approximately what is the value, how many slums, how many units are going to be built, so that we can just mentally compare with what Pune is?
We have 200,000 people in the slums, of which 1/3 are not really slum dwellers. So very little cost is there. 1/3 because we have gone through repeatedly this ODA project. So 200,000 slums, the total cost is around 10,000 crores. The unit cost is 2.5 lakhs. This is the maximum cost. We cannot ever exceed this. But this all depends, this is all subject to change also, because as we start building, they can change again.
What are the objectives of trade? Is it giving of ensuring that every poor person has a house, or is it removal of making cities slum-free? Second is, you spoke about the bottom-up approach. Isn't there a perspective problem? A bottom-up approach necessarily means that people will look at their individual needs. So individual needs versus community needs versus larger community needs. So how do you address those conflicts? And the third is, when you involve community very strongly in a consultative process, you also lead to raised expectations. So how does one handle those raised expectations? Does it ever create problems?
Every house in Hyderabad should be pakka. There should be every street in slum, it should be cement. It should be water and underground drainage to all. That is the way for me. Right? And the community and social part is taken care by these institutional changes we've got about areas of us. That is one. Number two, definitely, when you go to community at that level, I'm telling you, there's such a churning going on at this point, at that level. But this churning is bringing out beautiful results. Your efficiency is not getting a result fast. The efficiency is getting the best result. And I'll connect you to the larger concept of public interest. The public interest here is through a negotiated public interest. It's a negotiated public interest, subject to all constant free trade. That is the basic philosophy underlying all these. Third, yes, as you said, rightly said, there's a larger interest, smaller interest, and why would the larger interest? So we go to them and we talk to them, but that's why the mixed approach. We have the larger view, the satellite view, and we have the small, the mobile camera view. That sort of reconciles all. If you look at the entire community participation, one of the expectation management and conflict management is consensus building, mediation, reconciliation. So those standard tools are used by these people, but the community itself resolves it.
This presentation, there was no mention about the preventive strategy, which is also a part of how to prevent slums, so that the supply part is also taken care of.
Within my GHMC limits, Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation GHMC, all around is a 150 kilometers outer ring road, 610 to 150 kilometers. There are 12 ILRs, industrial areas. Now, these industrial areas, we are changing it to mixed land use, and we are asking them to shift outside the outer ring road, and the industrial infrastructure corporation is going to give them land. So it's a market-driven approach. All these guys, it's an industrial use because mixed means they can build malls, they can build houses. But 20% land is going to come to me. Ray guidelines for economic intersection. Orders have already been issued by the government. So 20% land I get. This I hope will take care of economic intersection or even LIGs.
What is the rationale for not having geographical representation on the ward committee?
The areas are representative. Anywhere from 5 to 9. This goes up to a ward committee. Ward committee has 10 members plus these guys. So roughly 15 to 20 people in the ward committee. So this is an area, and this is not an area. And here, mind you, we have 50% women. 50%.
What would be the way in which you would want GIS to be used at the beginning, so that people understand their own spatial and geographic information better, and thus have more informed, let's say, participation?
Larger issues which people, this NIMBY phenomenon, and not in my backyard, the larger issues connected to climate change, water, drainage, if you do analytics to GIS and show it to them, their understanding is easier.
But I have experience in Delhi. जब हम लोग सर्वे से शुरू करते हैं जो रेंटल फैमिली होती है उन पर प्रेशर पड़ता जाता है, अच्छा, तो वो क्या कोई मैकेनिज्म है कि इस तरह का मॉनिटर करने का कि वास्तव में जो वहाँ फैमिलीज रहती हैं उनको मिले, और इस दौरान ये नहीं कि जो ओनर्स हैं वो उनको बाहर कर दे और वो अपने शुरू कर दे। और दूसरा चीज सेल परचेज बहुत वहाँ पर होता रहता है। अभी लास्ट फ्राइडे को आई वाज इन स्लम्स, जो मेरे सामने वहाँ सर्वे चल रहा था, एक फैमिली आई जैसे 52,000 में 8x10 का वो चौकी खरीदने की बात कर। शी केम टू मी टू गेट सम एडवाइस, सलाह कि भाई क्या करना, खरीदना चाहिए या नहीं खरीदना चाहिए, क्योंकि उस दौरान वहाँ पर दिल्ली स्लम बोर्ड का सर्वे चल रहा था। तो इज देयर एनी मैकेनिज्म टू मॉनिटर कि वो जो जेन्युइन फैमिलीज है, दिस इज द सेम क्वेश्चन विद पुअर टीम आल्सो।
As we go along the process, आप तो सही कह रहे हैं, उस समय मॉनिटर करना पड़ेगा जो बेनिफिशियरी वहाँ था जिसके लिए घर बन रहा है, बीच में बेच दे, तो सही कह रहे हैं आप, उसको मॉनिटर करना होगा।
You said that there was first ODA project in Hyderabad of slum. Some improvement has already been done, maybe 20 years back. Now, is that also the slum which you are looking at when you are coming up with BSUP projects, or you are coming up with the RAY projects? They are also in the same ambit. They have already been improved. Now, what is the next improvement that you are going to bring those, or it is another level that you are taking those slums to? That is my first question. Second is, there are reforms which are being talked about, and they wanted to. One is that 7-point charter. The other is earmarking of the land, which of course Mr. Chatterjee has just now spelled out. Earmarking of land for urban poor, and the third is earmarking of funds for urban poor. These are 3 reforms which we are looking up to be implemented during RAY. Any comments on that, how you are taking those into consideration for the next program, which is RAY, and how they will be looked at? You know, there's no mention in any of these projects when both the commissioners were talking about.
Whatever was there in ODA project, because of political reasons, we're not able to denotify them. But they're fairly well developed, and if we do take it up, we take it to the next higher level and do only gap filling, which is minimal, absolutely minimal. Number 2, this 20% earmarking of land we have done. In fact, in all the good projects, we're taking 20% land or 10% of built-up area. The built-up area we are taking PWS. This was the second. The third was earmarking a part of your budget for the stuff that we are doing, and that is what we would put through the ward committees in the areas. So they will decide primarily for ONM, the sustainability of whatever we are doing. We're trying to use it for that, and also bridge the gap in case, you know, the money given by Government of India and state government is not sufficient to operate this. Right.